our newer YouTube channel, but this is a really high quality documentary going over a lot of the topics that we have been covering in the past 2 years. So we're going to be showing some info about 15-minute cities or smart cities, also how these disasters have been affecting the world's food supply, and then close out with some information about the propaganda machine that has been putting forth this narrative over many years, at least 20 years. So with that, let's start out with the 15-minute city clip.
The plan is to pretty much lock up humanity in smart cities, which is kind of a superset of a 15-minute city. They've sold all the state and local governments and countries that smart cities are about sustainability and the good of the city. But in reality, the language from the UN and WEF and their white papers is all inverted. So air monitoring is really about limiting mobility and no car ownership, right? Surveillance, control via LED grid is why the smart lighting is there. Water management is about water rationing. Noise pollution is about speech surveillance. Traffic monitoring is about limiting mobility. And then, of course, energy conservation is all about rationing heat, electricity, and gasoline. Another concept one should be familiar with is called geofencing. And think of it as an invisible fence around you where you cannot go beyond a certain point. And that will be related to your face recognition, digital identity, and access control. Your smart contracts, SoftBrick can turn off your digital currency beyond a certain point from your house. Our world has been turned into a digital panopticon. That means you can be monitored, analyzed, managed, and monetized.
So if you're wondering what the ultimate goal of these smart cities are, you just saw it right there. And I do feel just by looking around when I'm out, they are really ramping this up. I want to show you some examples of things that I've been noticing in my area. Now, they say these are just cell towers, and maybe they are, but I'm seeing these all over the place. These are not my pictures, but I see things like this next to the freeways, next to the streets. And they even hide them in these like fake cactus trees. And I mean, they're saying that it's just to, I guess, make them look nicer, but I feel like they are trying to hide something. And something that we do know and the companies have admitted is these towers do emit radiation that is very damaging. And it does, as you see here, the side of the tree facing the tower does begin to die. Did you want to add to that?
Well, I did want to add that smart cities are being planned in almost every major urban location. And so almost every time there's a disaster, like a fire or a flood in an urban area, you can bet that there's probably a smart city plan to go along with it.
And we've been covering this, for a while. We've done many cities. It seems like a lot of these disasters are just clearing way for these new cities to begin. Okay, the other topic that we think is very important is how the food supply is starting to be controlled and managed.
While the global machinations continue, thousands of farmers fear for their livelihoods. And the new UK government's first budget has multiplied those fears. By reducing relief on inheritance tax, they're penalising those who would want to pass their farms to sons or daughters. The National Farmers Union described it as
a disastrous budget
for family farms that would
snatch away the next generation's ability to carry on producing British food and see farmers forced to sell land to pay the tax.
For Kelly Seaton, concern goes well beyond her family farm in Cheshire.
It makes me feel incredibly sad that the dairy and meat industry is so vilified. you will never find anything as nutritionally complete as milk and meat. The food that is going to replace milk, meat, and all of the other products that we produce in this country is going to be very nutritionally lacking. They will starve us from nutrients, and then the pharmaceutical companies will probably pick up the slack on that, all of which create a profiteering circle.
Okay, so we're seeing this all over the world. The first one that we covered that I thought this was becoming very evident was the Amarillo, Texas smokehouse fire. And I think 1 million acres were affected and many, many cattle died during this one. And then also we did a global flood video, and many, many cattle and sheep were killed in Australia. But this is happening even in the UK, in the US, just the squeezing of farmers' ability to produce food. Yanasa TV does a really good job at covering this topic, and they have a farm somewhere. So we'll link their channel in the description if you want to get more information on that.
Yeah, and since Texas, we've actually seen other fires that affected the cattle ranchers as well. So I do recall seeing that happen in Utah as well as Wyoming, I believe, and many other places.
Yeah, and then we'll close out. And so this documentary has so much information. We're just really covering a very small portion of it because we want you guys to go and watch the whole thing, because we just think it's so valuable. That's why I wanted to make this video. And they also go into the propaganda machine and explain how the manufactured narrative has been getting out. And we've been hearing these narratives, these false narratives about, what's going on with the climate for at least 20 years. I would say even more.
But now we can't ignore it.
Here, the climate crisis is very real, and it is getting worse.
What mainstream media does in following this narrative is that they exclude vast areas of climate science. They exclude all the skeptical scientists. By the BBC, which has done it for 20 years, saying that you cannot have any other view apart from the settled narrative, is doing an enormous disservice to science.
Journalists and broadcasters are schooled in the carbon doctrine by organisations such as the Carbon Literacy Project, which claims to have trained 1,000 BBC employees. Meanwhile, Sky joined forces with the psychologists of the Behavioural Insights team to produce this initiative: How the Power of Television Can Nudge Viewers to Decarbonise Their Lifestyles. The recommendations included:
Give green content more screen time, more salience in plots and scenes. Use kids' content to encourage positive environmental behaviours amongst children and their parents.
How then can we possibly expect impartiality in reporting? Rather, we're served with propaganda, statements that nobody seems willing or able to question.
It is unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change.
I can take current media, right, and almost any climate story I can write, I think, a very effective counter. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. This is endemic to a media that is ill-informed and has an agenda. The agenda is to promote alarm and induce governments to decarbonize.
And these are taught in schools. I know I was taught this when I was in school, and my kids are learning this. So I really try to talk to my kids about, what's really causing these disasters. And, because the mainstream is so invested in this narrative, it's really up to the individuals, small channels such as ours, to tell the truth and show, what's really going on. Did you want to say anything else about that last clip?
Well, so they are propagandizing us to make us think that it's our own daily habits that are contributing to these problems. And so they're trying to cut back on our food supply, our ability to travel, and it's really going to end up corralling us into these 15-minute digital prisons where we won't have access to automobile travel and or even food.
And then they also do mention how the meteorologists, I don't think it was in that clip, but how they are educated and trained to carry on, their narrative. But here, at our channels, we try to provide, real explanations as to why these fires, floods, storms, tornadoes are happening, how they're being generated, and what the true reasoning behind these events are. So please watch the entire video. It is, I think, like an hour and 40 or so. But please watch it and share this video to as many people as you can. I'm sure this video will be highly suppressed. So if you could share it, that'll be really helpful. And subscribe, comment, and like. And that is going to do it. So we'll see you all